Imagine being 20 years old, sitting in front of a room full of cameras and reporters, having just lost a tennis match, and deciding that this, right now, is the moment you tell the world something that has nothing to do with tennis. That is exactly what Alex did at the Italian Open, and what happened next left the entire room breathless. Everyone in that press room at the Foro Italico thought they knew what was coming. The usual stuff: lessons learned, gratitude for the support, excitement about the next tournament. But Alex had other plans, and when she leaned into that microphone, the world stopped for just a second. So let us go back to the beginning, because this story deserves to be told properly from the very start, from the moment Alex walked onto the clay courts of Rome, all the way to the moment she walked out of that press room and changed the conversation around tennis forever. Rome in May is something else entirely. The Foro Italico has this ancient, almost mythical quality to it, with marble statues lining the grounds and the clay courts glowing burnt orange under the Italian sun. It is the kind of place where history feels like it is always happening, where the air carries the weight of every great match ever played there. And this year, something was different. There were Philippine flags everywhere, patches of blue, red, and white scattered through the stands, and every time Alex stepped onto the court, you could hear it, that chant rising from the crowd, cutting through the noise, making it clear that she was not just playing for herself out there. She never really is. Alex has carried that weight since she was a teenager. The weight of being the face of Philippine tennis, of being the player that an entire nation watches, hopes for, believes in. Most athletes her age are still figuring out who they are. Alex has been doing this since she was 13 years old. Traveling the world, competing against grown women, building a career in a sport that asks everything from you and then asks for a little more. And she had been doing it without complaint, with grace, with this quiet determination that made you feel like she had everything under control. But the Italian Open showed something new. It showed a version of Alex that the tennis world had not fully seen before, and it started with the matches. Her first match in Rome was against Magdalena Fresh, the Polish player ranked around the world number 45 mark. A solid opponent, the kind of player who makes you work for every single point. Alex did not just win that match, she controlled it. The movement, the consistency, the way she constructed points on clay, it was all sharper than anything she had shown in previous seasons on this surface. She looked like she belonged there, not as someone just trying to compete, but as someone who had genuinely figured something out about this game on red dirt. Then came Wang Xinyu, the 31st seed, a dangerous player who can hurt you from anywhere on the court. Another win, another statement. By this point, people were starting to pay attention. The Philippine flags in the stands were multiplying, and the conversation around Alex was shifting from potential to performance. She was not just promising anymore, she was delivering. And then came Elena Rybakina, world number 2, the reigning Australian Open champion, one of the most powerful players in the history of women's tennis. A woman who hits the ball so hard that it makes seasoned professionals look completely unprepared. Drawing Rybakina in the third round is not a soft landing, it is a wall, and Alex walked straight into it without blinking. The match was everything you would expect when a player like Rybakina is involved. Flat, fast, heavy balls coming at you from every direction. 6-4, 6-3, the scoreboard said when it was over. A loss, but the numbers do not capture what actually happened out there. Alex pushed Rybakina to 28 winners. She broke her serve. She made the world number 2 actually work in ways that a lot of players at her level simply cannot. She played with this controlled aggression that told you something important, that she was not afraid of the moment, that the clay was starting to feel like home, and that the gap between where she is and where the very best players are is closing, faster than most people realize. After the match, she walked into the media center. The press room at the Foro Italico is not a glamorous place. It is functional, efficient, the kind of room that has heard 1,000 post-match press conferences and will hear 1,000 more. Journalists with notebooks, cameras pointing at the chair behind the microphone, the low hum of air conditioning, filling the silence between questions. Alex sat down, she talked about the match. She said she thought she had reached a good level of tennis, that it was not an easy win for Rybakina, that she could see the improvement in her clay court game when she compared it to where she had been the previous year. She smiled when someone brought up the Philippine flags, the chants, the energy the fans had brought to Rome. She was measured, thoughtful, honest. She was being Alex. And then, just as the room was beginning to sense that the press conference was winding down, she leaned forward. She looked at the microphone for just a moment longer than usual, and then she said it. "I have an announcement to make. 4 words, and the room shifted immediately. You could feel it. The journalists who had been half-focused, jotting down routine quotes, suddenly put their pens down. The cameras that had been rolling on autopilot suddenly felt more deliberate. Something was happening. She said she had been playing tennis since she was 4 years old. She said she had been on the road since she was 13. She talked about the birthdays she had missed, the holidays that passed while she was somewhere on the other side of the world competing, the small, quiet moments of ordinary life that she had traded for this career. And she said she had been okay with all of it because she loved the sport, because she loved representing the Philippines, because every flag and every chant meant something real and deep to her. But then she said something that stopped the room completely. She said she had been asking herself a question she had been afraid to answer. What am I playing for? Just that. 5 words delivered quietly, without drama, without performance. And somehow those 5 words were heavier than anything else she could have said, because you could hear in her voice that this was not a rhetorical question. This was something she had been sitting with alone in hotel rooms and training sessions, and quiet moments between matches, turning it over and over, not quite ready to look at it directly. She talked about how she had started playing because she loved it, because stepping on a tennis court made her feel like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. And then she talked about how somewhere along the way that changed. The rankings started to matter more than the joy. The expectations started to get louder than the love. She looked down at her hands at one point and she said she had lost something without even realizing she was losing it. The press room was completely still, and this is the part that gets me, because Alex is not the kind of person who does this. She is composed, she is professional, she is someone who has been doing media since she was a teenager and knows exactly how these rooms work. For her to sit in that chair and be that open, that raw, that honest, it meant that what she was feeling was bigger than her ability to keep it contained. And then she said it. She was gonna skip the French Open, Roland Garros. The second Grand Slam of the season, the one that every clay court player circles on their calendar, the one that requires weeks of preparation and sacrifice and focus. She had just had her best clay season. She had just beaten 2 seeded players and pushed the world number 2 to a competitive 3-set scoreline. She was ranked 38 in the world, her highest ranking ever. Everything was pointing toward Paris, and she was choosing not to go. Her body needed rest, she said. Her mind needed rest, and she needed to remember why she fell in love with this sport in the first place. She looked directly at the camera when she said that last part. Not at the journalists, not at the room, at the camera, at everyone watching on the other side. And she said something important. She was not retiring. She was not quitting. She was pausing. There is a difference, and she understood it, and she wanted everyone else to understand it too. A pause is not an ending. A pause is someone taking a breath before they keep going. The press conference ended, she stood up, nodded to the room, and walked out. And then the internet woke up. Within minutes, the news was everywhere. Social media moved the way it only moves when something genuinely unexpected happens. Fans who had been following her clay season were stunned. Journalists were scrambling to process what they had just witnessed. Tennis fans who had never even heard of the Italian Open were suddenly watching the clip of her announcement on repeat. The hashtag trended globally within hours, and the reactions were something. Some people were heartbroken because they had been looking forward to watching her at Roland Garros, because they had bought into the story of her clay season and wanted to see where it went. Some people were relieved, grateful that she had chosen herself before the pressure chose for her. Some people were inspired in a way that had nothing to do with tennis, because the thing she was talking about, the feeling of doing something you love until you suddenly cannot remember why you love it. That is not just an athlete's experience. That is a human one. Coco Gauff posted about it. She knows what it is like to be young and talented and carry a whole lot of expectation on your shoulders. She said she was proud of Alex for putting herself first, and she meant it. Naomi Osaka, who had walked her own very public road when it came to mental health and the pressure of professional sport, said it took courage, real courage, not the kind of courage you need to face a big opponent on a big court. The other kind, the kind that lives in quiet rooms and difficult conversations. The kind that tells you the truth even when the truth is inconvenient. Philippine media covered it the way you would expect when one of your own does something that makes the whole world pay attention. Headlines about courage and wisdom and champions who know when to stop. Because knowing when to stop is its own kind of strength. We do not always talk about that in sports. We celebrate the ones who push through, who play through pain, who refuse to quit, and that toughness is real and it matters. But there is another kind of toughness that does not get enough credit, and that is the toughness it takes to say, I am not okay right now, and I need to take care of myself before I can take care of anything else. Tennis burns people out. It has been doing it for as long as the sport has existed. The travel, the loneliness, the physical demands, the mental grind of competing week after week after week with no real off season, no way to completely switch off. Young players especially carry extra weight because they arrive on tour with something to prove and nobody to show them exactly how to manage all of it. Some of them learn, some of them figure out a way to balance the ambition with the sustainability, and they build long careers. Some of them do not, and they are gone before they should be, burned out or broken down or just too tired to care anymore. Alex, at 20 years old, at the highest point of her career so far, looked at that road ahead and chose something different. She chose the longer path, the one that is harder to see from where you are standing, but makes much more sense when you look back on it. She will miss Roland Garros. The clay courts of Paris will turn without her this year. The Philippine flags will not be in the stands at Court Philippe Chatrier. The chants will not rise above the Parisian rooftops. And that is genuinely sad. Because she had earned her place there, she had worked for it across an entire clay season that showed real growth and real belief. But here's the thing about Alex that matters most. She has been in this sport since she was a child. She has given it years of her life already, years of sacrifice and discipline and dedication, and she has her whole career ahead of her. She is 20. There are players who win Grand Slams in their mid-20s, late 20s, even their 30s. The arc of a tennis career is long for the players who manage it right. And when she comes back, whenever that is, she will come back having made this choice consciously, having taken the time to heal and to remember and to reconnect with whatever it was that made her fall in love with a tennis racket when she was 4 years old. She promised the flags would fly again. She promised that when she came back, she would be better, not just as a player, but as a person, as a daughter, as a representative of her country. And if you have been paying attention to who Alex is, to how she carries herself, to the way she talks about this sport and this responsibility she feels toward the people who believe in her, then you know she means every word of that. She is not someone who says things she does not mean. So the question that this whole story leaves you with is not really about tennis rankings or Grand Slam draws or where she finishes in the year-end standings. The real question is the one she asked herself in that press room in Rome. What are you playing for? What are any of us working for, pushing for, grinding through the hard days for? And do we remember when we are deep in the middle of it all, do we actually remember what the answer is supposed to be? Because she forgot for a little while, and she was honest enough to say so, and she was brave enough to stop and go find the answer again. That is the story of Alex at the Italian Open in May of 2026. Not a Grand Slam win, not a ranking milestone, just a 20-year-old sitting at a microphone in Rome telling the truth, and sometimes the truth quietly spoken in a room full of cameras is the most powerful thing in the world.